All right, we are live. Do you see the live button there?
I do, yes.
Okay. All right, I see folks starting to come in. Are you at home right now, Leticia? I'm in
Uh,
Maryland. I'm actually at my parents' house.
oh, nice. Oh, you're from Maryland?
Yeah,
Or I mean, I
I was born here, yeah.
okay. Yeah, my
Yeah.
my best friend's also from Maryland, so
Yep, visiting here. Well, we can get started as people start to come in, and then like I said, we'll have the recording afterwards. So, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. I'm here with Leticia Gutierrez, a candidate for Congress here in Texas' new 9th Congressional District. And as many of you might remember, I recently ran for the same seat, and Leticia beat me in the primary back in March. But today I want to do this event with her to give you a sense of what it's like to run for Congress and why this race is so important, specifically Texas 9, and also to learn a little bit about the district, its people, and talk about the issues that real working Texans care about. So, Letty, welcome.
thank you so much, Terry. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and talk to a lot of your viewers and followers. I know that you do have a huge following, and so, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Yeah, I'm running for the newly redrawn Congressional District 9 as one of the 5 districts that President Trump and a lot of the Republicans drew out for themselves during a mid-year redistricting that was unlawful. And so, was part of a lot of the conversations that were being had to stop the gerrymandering. Unfortunately, it went through. And so I threw my hat in the ring once we figured out that, unfortunately, we were going to be now under these new maps. And so the new 9 falls square in the center of where I grew up and where I'm raising my family, where my parents live, and where I've gone to from elementary, middle, and also, graduated from Milby High School. And so, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me here today to talk on that.
Yeah, sure. It was outrageous that the gerrymandering happened. Of course, Greg Abbott just does what Trump says. And here we are. Al Green currently represents 9, and so this is the new 9. This has nothing to do with. It's a totally different part of Houston. Um,
That's
but I
correct.
think most people don't know what it's like to campaign. I didn't know what it was like to campaign until a year ago. So, what is it like? What is your day like? All the money that's flowing in and all the fun free time you have and stuff. To tell me what it's like to campaign for Congress.
No, well, the truth is that it's been difficult. Well, and I don't want to complain. I'm honestly very fortunate that this is, a grassroots campaign, and I do consider myself an organizer. I work for a nonprofit environmental organization that encompasses a big chunk of this district, which is my work. And so, a lot of what I've done in the past is the same things that I'm doing now is just having conversations with families and with community and meeting them where they are. I'm sometimes I get interviewed by Univision in Spanish. And so sometimes when I'm at my local HEB, somebody will tap me on the shoulder and they'll say, "Hey, I know you." And we'll start having a conversation. And so my kids now say, "We're not going with you to the grocery store because it's going to take a 2
Well, wait
hour."
until you win. Wait until you
Right,
win. That's going to
exactly.
be.
I know.
Um,
So yeah, it's just been, an expansion of that, and just having community and a lot of community leaders that have taken an interest in the district, that live here, and they don't want the regular things that have been happening for the last decade or more to continue because we're all suffering through the same things.
you have to work. You mean you don't get paid to run for Congress?
You do not get paid to run for Congress, and that's why I tell folks it's really hard for me to take a step back from my job because, I mean, not that there aren't anyone else that does what I do, but, I do my job very well, and it's really hard for me if somebody calls me. I get phone calls sometimes at 10, 11 PM about a smell or about something happening, that may not even pertain to environmental, and I take those calls, and
Right.
I take great pride that, I am community, and I may not always have the answers to the questions or the problems or the issues, but I know that I can connect them with either a lawmaker or someone's office or resources that are available in the area for, to hopefully mitigate whatever issues are happening.
Why does air quality matter in District 9? I Most people don't know this district. I think it's the most important congressional district in the country. But you want to talk a little bit about the economics and industry that we have there?
You're absolutely correct. It is one of the most important districts, and I tell folks that the laws that are going to be coming out of this district are gonna impact all of us. This region, this district encompasses a big portion of our Houston ship channel, which has about 60% of the industrial facilities here, all up and down the Gulf Coast. And so, we need industry. We obviously rely on the port as a huge economic engine, not just for this, district, the state, and even for parts of the country and even for the world. At the same time, we want to make sure that they're abiding by the laws and the regulations to keep us safe. I currently serve on the Port of Houston's Community Advisory Committee, and so I make sure that I bring in not just a lot of the business that is happening, but also the community lens and making sure that a lot of those internships and those higher level paying jobs are being doled out to communities that surround the port. Air quality is important because, unfortunately, this region, the Houston Harris County region, has been not even meeting the federal standard guidelines, which means we've been in non attainment. And that means that we are over the levels of air pollution. And if you Google particulate matter 2.5, it's
Mhm.
basically a sciencey name for soot, which is the byproduct of anything that burns, whether it's fuel, whether it's, other things that are burning in the area. Particulate 2.5 is one of the most dangerous chemicals out there. And
Mhm.
so for healthy folks, usually we can expel them. But for vulnerable populations like children with upper respiratory issues, COPD, heart patients, even pregnant mothers, and anyone with any sort of immunocompromised issues, that this can pose a serious health risk. And so, we're seeing a lot of research that's being done around even children that are in close proximity to industry and a lot of their test scores and, just their grades. And so that's of concern. And I'll tell you really quickly, I actually was one of the first one in my family to graduate from college, and I graduated from the University of St. Thomas with a finance and economics degree. And I was working in the securities and banking industry until I had a couple of kids, and my son started getting ill, unfortunately, with like this cough that just wouldn't go
Mhm.
away. I took him to various pediatricians until finally one pediatrician pointed at my zip code and he said, "Well, you live near the port." And I said,
Yeah.
what does that mean? You live near the port. I mean, I've been living there my whole life. And he said, "Well, children that live near the port 2 miles or less, are 5 times more likely to have this type of serious upper respiratory issue that he has it's just I'm sure you notice it whenever he goes outside and plays. Also, children, that live 2 miles or less are 50 times more likely to unfortunately, acquire certain types of leukemias. And I
Right.
had a baby cousin, years, before that had passed away of leukemia. And so that just, resonated with me very
Yeah.
deeply, and I decided to do a 180 on my career and do the work that I'm doing now. And
Mm.
so, but, I tell folks, environmental impacts bleeds into so many things, to a lot of the, it's exasperated by a lot of the access or the non-access to healthcare out here in this district. We have what are called, healthcare and food deserts,
Right.
which there's a scarcity and there's a lot of need for that. And not just, regular, emergency room care, but preventative care, which is why, Leticia Plummer and I, who's running for county judge, whenever she created the first cancer screening clinic in Fifth Ward because of the cancer clusters there, we've been trying to duplicate that here in this district, because we want to make sure the community gets in front of a lot of the issues that they may be faced with, because of the environmental impacts. This district also has almost a 16-ish less year life expectancy. And again, it's all of the social detriments to health out here that just gets compounded by a lot of the unfortunate, unchecked, industrial facilities that continue to pollute.
I think we have the most refining capacity of any I mean, our district is refinery after chemical plant with the Houston Ship Channel right in the middle of it. But,
Right.
to your point about pollution, and to your point about healthcare deserts, a vote for your opponent, Alexander Mueller, is a vote for more pollution and a vote for less healthcare. I mean, it's literally the platform that she's running on is gonna be to make our air quality worse and our healthcare worse. Talk about the
Right.
big beautiful bill. Yeah.
No, for sure. I mean, and this is why a lot of community is disenfranchised. I mean, I go to the state capitol quite a bit to make sure that, we have the science, the data coupled with community stories to be able to, create better legislation. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, this Trump administration is rolling back a lot of decade long, bipartisan regulation that, by the way, the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act was actually under Republicans back in was it 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
And so I tell folks, what happened to Republicans who cared about making sure that, that we were taken care of and that we were protected and that we weren't having anyone, whether, a corporation or a small business, railroading through, our communities and wreaking, havoc. And so I tell folks whenever you have, a sick workforce, I promise you that if you're looking at money, there's a huge cost benefit analysis that we've done about the hundreds of millions of dollars that are being lost yearly. Because for instance, for a mom like myself, that I was having to stay home for days with my sick
Right.
child, you multiply that on top of all of the other costs. Every time that I took him to the doctor, I knew it was going to be an average of about $250, and that's with insurance, by the way, with the nebulizers and the medicines and
Right.
everything. I did want to pick up and leave, but my family lives here, and I didn't want to leave them behind. And I've always loved where I lived, and I want to be able to give back, to make it better, and not have my kids think about leaving because of the things that are impacting them.
Yeah, and that I mean, air quality, clean air and clean water matter for all of us, but, in this district, probably more than most for sure, just because of the industrial output that we have. Real quick, what's your website? How can people support you? I wanna talk about that.
Sure. It's leticiaforcongress.com, Leticia, Leticia, Congress.com. You can sign up to volunteer. We have phone banking opportunities as well as block walking. Actually, this Saturday, we're partnering up with uh, I call her my sister, Leticia Plummer, who is running for county judge, and we're going to have a series of cafecitos. And this is an opportunity for community to come in the East End and hear about the things that are important. And we also want to turn it into a listening session. We learn a lot. I learn a lot from community around the ways that they're suffering through one of the worst, what we feel, economic disadvantages that communities facing with right now. Everything from you know, uh, increase in grocery prices to the gas pump to medical care. And so we're going to be at Las Perras, which is on Harrisburg this Saturday from 11 to 2. And so we're going to talk to community, and then we're going to disperse. And those who want to go block walking with us have an opportunity to come block walk with us, or phone bank if they want to stay behind. We're also going to have another one the following Saturday in Channel View. It's called La Taza, which stands for the cup. And it's a
Mhm.
new coffee, a new coffee shop in Channelview, that I know the owner Eloy, who is just amazing person, wants to give back to community, and so we're going to have another sit down. We call them in Spanish cafecitos. That means that you're going to sit down with a cup of coffee and have the
Little coffee,
opportunity.
yeah.
Yeah, and have a back and forth with me and Leticia Plummer. And so, but if you want to donate, I always tell folks there's no donation that's too small. Again, you can go to leticiaforcongress.com and donate. Your whatever you can.
Yeah.
I will say that we have a long list of volunteers, folks that have taken up the fight, to coordinate block walks in their neighborhood or to coordinate phone banking. And again, it's just this is taking just everyone who's interested in really having an impact in government and making sure that we elect folks that represent our our interests and the things that are impacting us out here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the East End, by the way. And you talked about the economic challenges for communities. The Houston Ship Channel does something it over 200 billion, maybe 300 billion dollars worth of commerce a year goes through that channel. It does not stay in the East End. I mean, that there's a lot of money going through, but these communities definitely that they need the playing field leveled is the way I put it. But
No,
the
absolutely.
food is the best though.
Well, thank you. Well, not that I should take credit for it, but
Yeah,
yes, we certainly want more economic commerce. We want for businesses to want and come and open up here, just
right.
like Las Terras. I know the owner there as well. And, she's not originally from the East End or from Texas. And, she chose this area to come and pop up her business. And, she wants obviously, for her community that she serves to also prosper. Right. And so we need to
Right.
make sure that people want to come to this side of town because a lot of times, I'm a community fellow at Rice University, and sometimes I'll ask my colleagues to come over and hang out at one of the establishments, and they'll say, "Well, it kind of smells whenever I go to that side of town," and that hurts because
It's a
some
great place. Yeah, it's great
no,
people.
I know it is, and so,
And
but again, that's yeah,
for me, when I was block walking there, I had many conversations completely in Spanish, and I'm not really, I'm a gringo, so they
well,
were
that's
interesting. I
I bet
knew I would
Spanish now.
exhaust my vocabulary pretty quickly. But Leticia, I had this one conversation, it just breaks my heart, and I still tell the story. I was talking to this nice older lady in her 70s, American, Hispanic, and she said, "Terry, I don't leave my house." 'Cause she's afraid to leave her house. And I just want you to I mean, our district is over half Latino, right? Talk about what ICE is doing. I This is what motivated me to run for Congress. It's what we saw in Germany in the 1930s, but our district had just had a very public I incident, and so I just want you to talk about that real quick.
Yeah, thank you for elevating that. That is
Yeah.
part of the reason as well why I decided to run, and I will say it's scary sometimes because, I'm an immigrant, I'm a daughter of immigrants. My family and I came here back in the '70s when things were completely different. Um, and what happened on July 7th here in Magnolia Park, which is my backyard, I was on Magnolia Park Sharkette when I was a kid, and this is
Wow.
where my family lives. This is where, my parents also were already too scared to leave the house, and then this happened. And what happened to El Señor Lorenzo Salgado Araujo and his family, um, is just I mean, I have so many words for it, but it is just, the worst thing that could possibly happen.
He was the
And
older man murdered by ICE, and he has the most amazing kids. His son, there's one son that's been the face who's just like, he's the son you wanna raise when you're a parent. He's been amazing.
no, absolutely. Actually, all of his sons,
Yeah,
after this murder by ICE,
yeah,
um, because that's what it's been ruled now, homicide.
yeah,
And so, what they've been out here preaching and talking, I just, to your point, it just, a testament to their father and who he was and how he raised them because they're out here preaching love. They wanna make sure that, yes,
yeah,
that doesn't happen again to someone else. And it's hard not to get emotional whenever I speak on it because, I tell folks their dad was all of our dads.
right.
Um, I mean, my dad worked construction. He was a roofer for many years. I mean, he started off as, labor and farm worker in California at first when he was just a teenager. And so, their family is what is in this district. I mean, it's 61% Latino.
Right.
And I tell folks all of the time, people don't understand the process that folks have to go through to get their documentation. It literally takes years and tens of thousands of dollars. And the other thing is there's attorneys, shark attorneys out here that take people's money and
Right.
don't realize until at the nth hour that they weren't even properly being represented.
Right.
There's notary republics out here that pretend to be attorneys, and we need to rein in on that. We need to make sure that
Right.
we create laws to go after those folks as well. Listen, I know that you and I in the past, whenever we were running, we would speak on, we both agreed that we're not looking to open up the borders. We want secure
Not at
borders.
all.
Right, and so we want to make sure that, yes, that criminals are being picked up and those that are wreaking havoc on our community need to be put away and sent back if they're not doing right. But for instance, like El Señor Salgado, I mean, he was working. He's been here for over 35 years, had a small business, paying taxes, by the way, because when they give you that temporary number, you have to wait. And sometimes the problem also is that they issue these penalties where they send you back to Mexico. It could be 6 months, it could be 2 years, and during that time, obviously, your family's still here, right? So how are you able to sustain your family? Because a lot of the times it's, the men that are, sustaining their
Right.
families. And so those types of things just, we need to cut this red tape. We need to have a streamlined process. We need to make sure that we support Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia and the American Indignity Act that is going to
Mm.
support a lot of those folks that are undocumented but are here, working and doing the things so that we can push those things through. And also our DACA recipients. You have no idea how many business owners are in this district that are DACA recipients that fear for their life every single day. And that's not okay. That's not boding well for anyone.
We just had a lady get rounded up and sent to one of these gulag detention centers. She was taking her son to college, right? I think she had 3 sons. My MAGA friend was texting me the other day. Well, these people just come and they just are getting all these federal benefits and they're just, becoming wards of the state. No, they're not. When I look around our district, I see a lot of people building houses. I see a lot of people working like crazy, and they're paying taxes. If you live in America and you buy gasoline, you're paying tax. If you have a place to live, you're paying tax. If you buy groceries, you're paying tax. So, um, we're
Yeah,
having
and
this housing crisis, and we're deporting, and we're not only deporting, we're terrorizing them and sending them to inhumane gulags. It's insane. It's insane.
like I told some of the MAGA folks is that if you do not have a Social Security, you cannot apply for federal benefits. You cannot
Right.
apply anything. And as they're here working, they have to prove that they can sustain themselves. If they even catch wind that you went and applied for federal assistance, that is a huge ding on your documentation that will not allow you to proceed. You have to provide proof that you can sustain yourself. You have to have people to sponsor you. I've sponsored family members and friends, to let them know that if for whatever reason they fall ill or something happens, that they have folks here that are able to support them. And so
Right.
again, you have to provide without a shadow of a doubt that you're not here to drain the system. And so, yes, I mean, again, those are just false narratives that people, listen to and think that that is the truth. And then neighbors see someone down the street that may not speak, perfect English, or they hear them speaking Spanish and they think, well, why do they have and I don't have? Well, I
Right.
promise you, they have nothing to do with your health care, going up, with the cost of groceries, with the
How
cost of
about
everything.
voting?
Yeah.
This guy is a pretty senior Trump official, a colleague of mine, and he said, "Well, you brought over tens of millions of illegals just so they could vote. So if you escape the gangs in Mexico or Guatemala, are you going to come to America and then go vote, and risk being deported?" I mean, I think the answer is no.
What do you mean risk
I
the
I I mean, a lot of the Republicans say that there's all these people here and they're here illegally and they're voting. I think that's insane. I mean, if I had escaped and I got my family here, I would not go vote. I mean, that would be a huge risky thing. The
For
point I'm
sure.
making is I don't
Oh,
think
you
they're,
mean vote
yeah,
illegally? Yes.
illegally. Are people voting illegally?
Right.
I
No,
think the
again,
answer is a huge no.
it's it's already a huge task, by the way, to get folks that once they get their permanent residency, number 1, to become US citizens. That's a
Right,
whole other thing. Getting your
right,
residency card is yes, because I had my residency card for a minute. By the way, I made my whole family become US citizens during the last Trump administration because there's a lot of folks out here that once they get their residency card, they don't apply for their US citizenship. So that's
right,
one. 2, even those that are citizens, it is so hard to get them to register to vote
right.
because they have that mentality, and I don't mean to paint us with a broad brush, but, they're used to corruption and used to hearing things not just, in their home country news, but here as well, that even if you register to vote and you show up to vote, it doesn't make a lick of difference. And that's the rhetoric, and so, again, I mean, to say that people are out that, undocumented folks are voting in our elections, that's insane.
It's
No.
insane.
Yeah,
It's just not true. Yeah.
right.
Um, I know we're coming up on 30 minutes. I really wanna talk about money because I know it matters. When we ran in the primary, we had our Republican friends running against us. They raised 10 times more than we did. Um, the Republican establishment is a money machine, and Alex Mueller, your opponent, she's a money machine. She ran 4 years ago for county judge. For those who don't know Texas, the county judge is kinda like the boss. Harris County, if it was a state, it would be roughly 25. It would be like Louisiana or South Carolina. Harris County is massive. So the county judge is a big deal. It's like being governor of a mid-sized state. She
Correct.
raised something like $25 million. She raised 5 times more than her opponent and lost. And so money isn't everything. Money doesn't win elections, votes do. But you gotta have some money. So I just
No,
wanna give you a chance to talk about that because, and if you are listening to this and you don't want more of this disaster to unfold, support Leticia. This seat is winnable. Beto would have won it had it existed by a few tenths of a percent, but this seat is winnable, and if we can win this, we have to win this. And so I want people to support you, but I'll just let you talk about that, the money side of things.
no, I appreciate that, and to your point, yes, money isn't everything. I tell people that, yes, donations are needed and wanted and welcomed, but at the end of the day, even in a six-person race like we were for the primary, I raised, I think, a little over 20,000, if that, compared to, just in my race alone, I think there was probably about 800,000 or so there.
Yeah.
And so we were able to get 54% of the vote. And a lot of that was just, people power, people coming together. I do have to, send a shout out to Black women that I've organized for many years here in the district that showed up for me. They didn't just show up to click. They brought their nieces, their nephews, their aunties. They were coming in caravans, and I my heart is just forever indebted, and we need more of that. I tell people that it's not going to be just showing up to vote. It's going to be you bringing everyone that you possibly know that's registered to vote to come and click for us. And so, at the end of the day, as you just very eloquently stated, my opponent does have the money. She has the backing of a lot of the folks that unfortunately don't have our best interest at heart at the end of the day. And
You mean
so,
Mattress Mac. I'll just say that out loud.
well, thank
If you're
you.
from Houston, you know what I'm talking about.
And that's the thing. I mean, I've one of the first commercials that I ever saw whenever we came to this country was him, dressed as a mattress. But it's unfortunate that he doesn't know how to read the room because a lot of his clientele are Black and brown folks, and so
Mhm.
again, I think that it's important for people to understand that, not only am I from this district, I'm living through the things that everyone is living through right now. And that's what people want to hear. They want to feel connected to the person that is going to go to Washington and be able to rule on the things that pertain to them, not special interest, not the top 1%. I tell folks, that none of us are a hop, skip, jumping away from becoming a billionaire. Well, I should say none, but 99 plus percent of us.
Yeah.
But we are a hop, skip, jumping away from losing it all. If
Yeah.
we, God forbid, have the wrong medical diagnosis or another yet catastrophic weather pattern that we seem to experience here at least, every other year. I'm still actually trying to recuperate from the ice storm Yuri.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it yeah, we have to understand what's at stake and, who's gonna be there for us and who understands, more than anything. I tell folks, like, right now, cutting food for needy children, um, I can tell you as a child that grew up, in the public school system, being hungry, I know that it affected my grades. And, at a time when they're
Of
defunding
course.
free schools, wanting to defund a lot of the medical services, we don't have school nurses out here in the East End. We get one school nurse that gets to travel around and, pray to God that nobody gets sick. Librarians are being cut. Like they're
There's
just
no libraries. Yeah, there's no
no,
school
they're
libraries.
gutting every single thing, and now
Yeah.
food, a basic necessity for children. I mean, again, these are things that I promise that when I get to Congress, I will make sure that we don't just elevate and stand up and tell the stories, that we actually create legislation that is going to roll all of this insanity back. Because we've had enough of continuing to give subsidies and tax breaks and tax abatements to corporations. And by the way, we have an immigrant here in this country who is the biggest welfare queen of them all. I meant to say that whenever you mentioned about your
He's an
MAGA friend.
African American.
Yeah, exactly. That, gets billions of dollars from our my tax dollars. I just paid close to $10,000 in federal income taxes, and I could not even write off my daughter's tuition that I helped pay for. She's over here selling her plasma to be able to make ends meet, to put gas
Yeah.
in her car because she knows that, we're struggling. And that just really breaks my heart, that those of us out here are working, we're doing the things, but government needs to do the things as well. So yes, I
Not
mean,
ballrooms
no,
or Trump
listen,
battleships or more wars in Iran.
I mean,
Who you
again,
have a personal we didn't talk about that. I wanted to give
we
you a
didn't get to talk
second to
about
talk
my
about that.
son. No,
Yeah.
my yes, my firstborn, only son. People sometimes say, "Well, Democrats aren't patriotic," and
Mm.
I have my firstborn son, my only son, fighting for this country, fighting for the things that right now our rights are being trampled on.
Yeah.
And I will have to send a shout out to him and his best friend. He says, "Mom, any chance that you get, could you please talk about how in the military, it's all about who has your back, and there is, there's Hispanic, there's Black, and my
Yeah.
best friend is Muslim." He says, "When my knee was hurting, he was praying over my knee with his Quran, and coincidentally, the next month he was observing Ramadan, and they're not, he couldn't even have a drop of water while he was going through the rigorous physical,
Right.
things." And he's like, "And I prayed over him with my rosary at night." This is America. This is who we are. And freedom of religion and the press and not feeling that you're going to be persecuted for speaking up. That is our First Amendment right that is being currently trampled on. And so,
So,
yeah,
Leticia, vote for Alex Miller is a vote for the war in Iran or
correct.
Venezuela or wherever, and it's a vote for $1.5 trillion of defense spending that's coming out of our health. Texas is number one. We like to be big in Texas, right? We're number one for uninsured people. We have the most number of uninsured, and that's what a vote for Miller is for those things. So how
Uninsured.
can people support you? That
Things.
it's
Yeah,
you have a
yeah.
winnable race. We have to win this race. You're one of the one like you can stop this gerrymandering disaster. Winning in District 9 will be a huge statement. So how can people support you to help do that?
Again, go to my website, leticiaforcongress.com, Leticia, Leticia, Congress.com. Sign up to volunteer, block walk, phone bank. Again, no donation is too small. All of my donations are coming from community. I have a lot of friends who are immigration attorneys. I have a lot of healthcare workers that are, fearful of losing their jobs. And so this campaign is a people's campaign. It's a grassroots campaign that is centered on what matters most. We're not interested in talking ideological things. We're interested in getting people back to work, making sure that the cost of living is keeping up with our wages, supporting unions, supporting those that are bearing the brunt of a lot of the issues that we're dealing with out here. So again, LeticiaForCongress.com. I appreciate everyone. I'm just that person that tries myself to lend to any opportunity. If you see there's an opportunity for me to come and speak to your group that would be interested in supporting, I'm more than happy to do that as well. You can reach out at our info at leticiaforcongress.com to ask any questions, or if you, again, want to get involved. We appreciate every single person that knows that this seat is winnable and that we're not going to let them dilute our voices and take it away from us.
Amen. Well, people feel hopeless. There's so much bad news every day. It's a constant deluge. And so having you win in Texas 9 will give us hope. So Leticia for Congress, no donation is too big either, up to $3,500. So feel free to send $3,500 for the husband and for the wife and for the adult children. And that
Yes.
money, I just did this. You have to have some small staff. You have to be able to run ads.
Yep.
You have to be able to have a block walking program. The Republicans are going to have 10 times what you raise or more. I mean, they're just a fundraising juggernaut right now. So you have to get that minimum amount. And the only way to do that is to send money to you.
No, absolutely. And thanks again, Terry, for your time and your generosity and just keeping up with all the things. I have to let folks know that you're constantly texting me and just keeping me abreast of a lot of the foreign policy issues as well. And so thank you so
Yeah.
much for that.
Well, we got to win. If we don't start winning elections, we're not going to have elections. So let's get you in Congress. And thank you everybody for showing up today. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Leticia.
Thank you, Terry.
Gracias, Leti.
Gracias. Te lo
Adiós.
agradezco mucho. Ok,
Chao.
adiós.